What's up, you guys? It's Michael here with FPL Advice, and today we're going to go over reasons why I think you should transfer out Antonio and Benrahma heading into Game Week 9. We're going to look at different options that you can transfer in for both of them. And towards the end of the video, if you do want to stick around, we'll take a look at my Game Week 8 team and also some transfer ideas that I have planned heading into Game Week 9. So as you know, Antonio has been absolutely crucial so far this year, especially in the beginning of the season. He is the most owned forward with 45.9% of FPL manager ownership. He's had 7 returns, 4 goals, and 3 assists. He's averaging 9.75 points in the first 4 games. Had an expected goal involvement of 3.77. But as you can see, that form has significantly decreased over the last 4 games. He is still getting a lot of touches and shots in the box, and he is creating chances. So it is fair to say that he's been quite unlucky over the last 4 games. I guess you can say 3 games because Game Week 5, he did not feature due to a red card. But the reason why I think you should transfer him out is due to West Ham's fixtures. As you can see, West Ham plays 6 games over 17 days starting October 21st. They play Genk, then Spurs, 3 days later, then 3 days later, Man City, 4 days later, Villa, 4 days later, Genk, and then 3 days later, Liverpool. So again, very difficult fixtures. And also not a lot of fixtures where I think he can get rested. I would think that they would prioritize the Europa and the Premier League game, so I could see him getting rested for the Man City game. However, that's still a ton of games to be played over 17 games. And then the Premier League games that West Ham have to play in are against Spurs, Villa, and Liverpool, which are obviously games where Antonio and Benrahma could potentially get some sort of returns, but I do worry that they might get rotated or simply not perform well due to the fatigue. And a player I think you should consider swapping him for is Toney. And of course, he's not the only option. However, I do think he is a very good one due to the fixtures, due to the fact that he's only 6.4 million, and he's also on penalties, and Brentford have been doing very well this year so far. As you can see, Toney has averaged 5.25 points per game versus Antonio's 2.75 points per game over the last 4 games. He scored 2 goals and assisted 1 compared to only 1 goal that Antonio has had. He's had less shots and touches in the box, but does have a higher goal involvement than Antonio. West Ham's last 4 fixtures were Everton, Brentford, Leeds, and Man U, while Brentford's last fixtures were Chelsea, West Ham, Liverpool, and Wolves. So obviously, Brentford has had a more difficult fixture run over the last 4 games. The fact that Toney has still been performing only means that he's finally hit the ball running and he can continue to perform over the next few games. In Game Week 9, Brentford do have Leicester up next, which will not be an easy fixture. However, they do have a home advantage in that game. They then play Stoke in the Carabao Cup, and then they have an easy fixture run of Burnley, Norwich, Newcastle, and Everton. One thing that I love about Brentford, and especially their attacking assets, is the fact that they create so many chances every single game, no matter who they play. They remind me of Leeds last year. So the fact that Toney is either going to be at the end of those chances or he's going to be the one creating those chances, obviously he's a player you should definitely consider. And on top of all of that, he's also the penalty taker for Brentford. So once they get a penalty, obviously his returns are going to be even better. Transferring Antonio out and transferring a player like Toney in frees up a lot of cash for you, especially if you're thinking about potentially bringing in Son or Kane in Game Week 12. Personally, my team right now, it'd be very easy to bring in Kane in Game Week 12. I could just swap Lukaku in and obviously transfer in Kane. But if I wanted to bring in Son, my money's spread out all over the place, so I do have to make these minor transfers to kind of free up some cash to be able to bring Son in, if that's kind of what I wanted to do. And of course, I think that Toney can easily perform just as well as Antonio over the next 3 to 4 games, if not better. A similar situation goes for Benrahma, as he thrived in the first 4 games of the season. However, his form has gotten worse. He is still owned by 36.1% of FPL managers, so he's still one of the highest owned midfielders. In the last 3 games, he's averaging less than 3 points per game. As in Game Week 6, he got 3 points, Game Week 7, 2 points, Game Week 8, 3 points. In the last 4 games, however, he is averaging 4.5 points per game, so that's not terrible, as he did get 10 points in Game Week 5. But again, same thing for Antonio. I do worry that Benrahma might get rotated, or he might not play some of the Premier League games, as he will be playing in the Europa League or potentially against Man City in the Carabao Cup. Over the last 4 games, he's only had 1 goal, and in the first 4 games, he had 2 goals and 2 assists. So again, with the fixtures that they have, I am worried that he will be fatigued or simply rotated and not get 90 minutes every single week. One player I think comparing him to and potentially replacing him with is Mbeumo. Of course, there are a lot of different options. There's Rafinha, Saka, although Saka did not perform well today. Douglas Luiz. It depends on how much money you want to have in the bank. or how much money you need, especially if you do want to bring Son in game week 12. But Mbeumo, I do think he's a phenomenal option. He has hit the post 6 times so far this year, yet he's still getting a decent amount of returns for a 5.5 million midfielder. And of course, as I mentioned, Brentford's fixtures are extremely good after the Leicester game in game week 9. He was a bit unlucky over the first 4 games. He had 0 goals and 0 assists, but he still had a lot of penalty touches and a decent amount of shots in the box. And then in game weeks 5 through 8, he had 2 goals, 7 shots in the box, 17 penalty touches, 2 chances created, and has a goal involvement of 2.52. So obviously, Mbeumo is a phenomenal option at 5.5 million. And if you're liking this video so far, make sure to give it a like and also subscribe to the channel if you're new to FPL Advice. But all right, you guys, so as you can see, my game week 8, I ended up getting 53 points, which is slightly more than the average. I got 3 clean sheets, so I'm pretty happy with that. Salah came through as he always does with 13 points, which helped me out significantly. Outside of that, 6 points from 5 players in attack. I mean, Smith Rowe looked decent, but didn't get anything at the end of it. Saka looked poor in the first half, then was subbed off in the 45th minute, I believe due to an injury, but again, he was poor, he wasn't creating anything, so I'm not sure he was going to get any returns anyways. And then Antonio, Jimenez, and Lukaku all blanked in game week 8, but don't you worry, I have a juicy plan heading to game week 9, and I might make 3 transfers, so stay tuned as we go over my game week 9 potential transfer options. Heading into game week 9, my team looks pretty good. The only player currently at risk is Rudiger. However, there are pictures of him in training already with a big smile on his face, so I expect him to not play this week in the Champions League and then be ready and fit and ready to play against Norwich in game week 9. With 2 transfers and assuming that Rudiger is fit and will end up playing in game week 9, there isn't much I really need to do. I think if I do want to bring in Son or Kane in game week 12, I do need to find ways to kind of decrease the value of some of these players and have more money in the bank. With that in mind, the 2 transfers I could potentially make is Antonio for Toney and then Rudiger for Mbeumo. This would free up some cash, so that way I would have 3.3 million in the bank in case I do want to bring in Son in game week 12. One thing I'm worried about is that too much cash to have on hand for game week 9, 10, and 11, right? That's 3 game weeks where I would hold that and not utilize it. I do think that my team would still look pretty decent without more upgraded players, I would say. But again, that's just something that I'm thinking about. And the juicy option I wanted to tell you guys about that I mentioned earlier is forgetting about Son and bringing in the man in form, Jamie Vardy. Assuming that Rudiger is confirmed fit, healthy, and does not feature in the Champions League game over the week, I could transfer out Azpilicueta for Mankilo, Sarr, or Saka, probably Saka since he might have picked up an injury, to Mbeumo, and then Antonio to Vardy. And then in game week 12, I could still bring in Kane for Lukaku. I would only have 0.1 million in the bank if I was to make these 3 transfers. So before game week 12, I would have to find 0.3 million to be able to afford Kane. But again, I don't think that's hard to do because then I could easily, if I swap Saka in for Mbeumo, I could then transfer out Sarr for Douglas Luiz or someone who's 4.5 million. I'm sort of leaning towards this option because not only have Leicester been playing super well, Vardy is completely on form. I think he has 7 goals so far in 8 Premier League games. I think Mbeumo is just good of an option as Toney, and he does cost less. So I would be really happy owning him heading into game week 9. And Mankilo picked up an assist over the last game, and Newcastle's fixtures are not terrible. So the fact that he costs 4 million and is a guaranteed starter, he's a phenomenal option to have as a 5th defender. But that's all I have for you today. Let me know in the comments which option you think is best and also what you're considering doing heading into game week 9. If you did end up liking this video, make sure to give it a like and also subscribe to the channel if you're new to FPL Advice. Thank you again, and until next time.